Coming up on today's episode, I want to check out the updated playoff picture with the Chargers-Ravens game wrapping up on Monday night. What does that mean for Denver as they have a full AFC schedule ahead of them? So we're going to break down the updated look at the playoff picture for the 7-5 Broncos. Now, before we get into the weeds of today's episode, if you are ready for the playoffs, go ahead and show me by subscribing to the channel. In the month of November, our channel record for subscribers off of video is 244. I want to beat that number. So go ahead and click that subscribe button down below if you are ready for a Broncos playoff watch party. Now, the Monday night game wrapped up earlier this week, and the Ravens knocked off the Chargers on the road. And this was a tough rooting guide game for Denver because both teams sit just ahead of the Broncos. Both teams beat the Broncos, so it was probably a little bit tough for some people to kind of figure out, hey, what's in Denver's best interest tonight? For me, it was the Ravens winning. Why do I have the Ravens winning as the best case scenario for Denver? Well, look at the playoff picture here. I think the Ravens knocking off the Broncos the way they did showed that Denver was not going to catch up to Baltimore in the playoff race for the wild card spot. The Ravens are a better team than both the Chargers and, to be honest, the Broncos as well. So I felt like that was just something that was unattainable when it comes to passing them for a wild card spot. Whereas the Chargers, I think, are a passable team, and I could see Denver going from 7-6. Whereas if the Chargers won and the Ravens lost, I feel like both teams would have just kept winning from there, and Denver would have been stuck at number 7. Now that the Chargers are down at 7 wins with the Broncos, that feels like a team that Denver could pass in the playoff race. So let's take another quick peek at the playoff picture here because the Broncos sitting with a 73% chance to make the playoffs. And now I'm starting to get a little bit greedy and think about matchups, right? Because sitting at sitting at the 7th seed with a 7-5 record, the Broncos have a 73% chance of making the playoffs. So I'm starting to feel pretty confident that this team can finish off the season, and then we can start looking at, okay, who could they be matching up with? Now, what does the rest of the regular season look like? They've got Monday Night Football coming up at home. It's Denver's first Monday night game at home since anyone? The Tennessee Titans season opener about half a decade ago. Then they get their much awaited the bye week. And then after that, it's a 4-week sprint. Colts at home. Chargers on a short week, but I think it's in Denver's best interest because after that, they've got the Bengals likely on a Saturday, so Denver will have 3 extra days of rest compared to Cincinnati, whereas it's all equal with the Chargers on a short week because both teams play on Sunday in Week 15. However, Denver had their bye in Week 14, whereas LA had their bye in Week 5. So again, double advantage for actually triple advantage because they play the Colts coming off the bye, advantage Denver. They play the Chargers on a short week, however, advantage Denver given their bye in Week 14, Chargers bye in Week 15. And then advantage Denver in Week 17 because they literally have an advantage. 3 extra days of rest playing on Thursday night on a Saturday game in Week 17, whereas the Bengals play on Sunday afternoon in Week 16. So if you look at the remaining schedule for Denver and combine all those team records, they come out to 29-27. So pretty middle of the pack. The Chiefs are definitely carrying the workload for that with a 10-2 record. Meanwhile, the Chargers' remaining schedule, if you look at it here for a moment, they've got the Falcons coming up on the road off a short week on Monday night. And Atlanta, by the way, just played on Atlanta just had their bye week, so major advantage for the Falcons. Then they've got the Chiefs on Sunday night, and then the Buccaneers. So, good team in Atlanta, really good team in the Chiefs, and a rising team in the Buccaneers, all leading into a Broncos game on Thursday Night Football. And then they've got the Patriots and the Raiders, 2 easy games to close out the year after 4 really tough games. Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks, Broncos. And by the way, the Chargers' remaining schedule is 33-35. So both teams have pretty similar schedules, although I think it's going to be easier for Denver because they're not playing the Falcons and the Bucks and the Chiefs and the Broncos themselves all in consecutive weeks. Denver's got a bye kind of tossed in there along with a pretty formidable matchup against a 3-8 Cleveland Browns team. So the big matchup that Denver has to look forward to is, of course, the Chargers game because they share the same amount of wins, half a game back behind the Chargers. If they knock off the Chargers, it can throw out the head-to-head matchup because it'll be even. And then it comes down to AFC West record and AFC record altogether. And Denver only has AFC games remaining, so an opportunity to pat their resume a little bit. But like I was saying a few minutes ago, I'm starting to play with my food a little bit because I am a confident believer that Denver will make the playoffs at 7-5 right now. And just the overall way they have been playing the last couple of weeks, they are only getting better and stronger by the week. And they have their bye coming up, which will be a nice big boost for them going into the last 4 weeks of the season. So for me, the question becomes, the race is on between the Broncos and the Chargers to avoid playing Kansas City or Buffalo, who is likely going to be the 1 and 2 seed. And right now, if you are the 7 seed, you would be playing the Bills on the road. Not ideal. If the Bills, which I think is going to happen, overtake the Chiefs, then it's the Chiefs on the road in the first round of the playoffs. As fun as that would be to watch Denver beat Kansas City in the playoffs, I would prefer a different matchup in round 1. I'd rather see that happen maybe in round 2 if we're having some level of realism here. So for me, the big race is for Denver and the Chargers to avoid being the 7th seed, to avoid playing the Chiefs to avoid playing the Chiefs and the Bills, which I know is Captain Obvious talk, but I'd much rather see the Broncos play in Pittsburgh in the first round of the playoffs, a Steelers team that has not won a playoff game in nearly a decade, by the way, rather than going to the Bills or going to Arrowhead in the first round. So, of course, better the seed, better the matchup, but I think usually there's some level of, wow, this matchup isn't as good as you might think for being a 7 and 2 seed. In this case, it really is in your best interest to be the 6 seed and play the 3 seed. If it's the Steelers awaiting you on the other side, which as things stand right now, that would be the case. Now, up next on the show, I want to talk about Patrick Surtain being in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. I really think you guys are going to enjoy the second half of the show, so don't go anywhere. But a quick shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. They're also giving Broncos Country an incredible deal for Thanksgiving. They are putting Tyreek Hill's receiving yards at 1. Actually, not even 1, 0.5. As long as he gets 1 yard, you win. So download the PrizePicks app today and have some extra fun while you're watching the games on Thursday. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Let's talk about PS2 for a little bit because I want him to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And if no one else is going to talk about it, then I'm going to be the minister of information here and a little bit of bias and propaganda to just boost up his overall profile because it deserves to be in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. This is some of the best cornerback play we have seen in years when it comes to yards allowed, the ability to shut down teams' number 1 guy. Look over the last couple of weeks just in your head for Surtain. Brock Bowers, best tight end we've seen as a rookie in a long time. Zilch on Sunday. Plays the Falcons the week before. Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Darnell Mooney. One of the top passing offenses in football. Completely grounded against Pat Surtain. He has been incredible this year. Bowers, by the way, on Sunday, 4 grabs, 38 yards, and most of that did not even come with Surtain in coverage on him. This year, PS2 is on pace for 284 yards allowed in coverage, 2 touchdowns, an average of just 8 yards a completion. And by the way, 5 interceptions, 12 pass breakups, and Pro Football Focus has him ranked not just the top 10 corner in football, the number 1 cornerback in the National Football League. This is some of the best cornerback play we have seen in a long time. And there have been some great corners, but that's just how good, how great, how prolific PS2 has been. Now, unfortunately, the Defensive Player of the Year award, kind of like the Offensive Player of the Year or just the MVP, is dominated by one position, and that is defensive end. Look at the last 10 years. Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, Aaron Donald, Stephon Gilmore, Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, JJ Watt. 9 out of 10 of them make their money off of rushing the passer. Stephon Gilmore is the only outlier. Now, in Gilmore's 2019 season with the Patriots, he had 6 interceptions and 20 pass breakups. So, in order for a corner to really stand out for Defensive Player of the Year recognition, it usually comes with a lot of INTs. And I mean a lot. I mean, even when Xavier Howard had 10 interceptions for the Dolphins in, was it 2020? He wasn't really even the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, this year, there's not really a pass rusher that is running away with the award. Trey Hendrickson leads the NFL in sacks, and I bet even your above-average NFL fan wouldn't think he is leading the NFL in sacks because the Bengals' pass rush has been so bad this season. But there hasn't really been a whole lot of chatter. Plus, Cincinnati Bengals defensive end, I know it's not really fair to him, but that doesn't really garnish a ton of attention from the national media, and ultimately, that's who decides the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Now, kudos to the Texans, by the way, having 2 guys in the top 5. But Myles Garrett, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, is heating up. He had 3 sacks against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday night. This year, he's up to 10 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles. So Garrett, we have seen in the NFL, there is no issue with voters going back-to-back for Defensive Player of the Year. Donald did it, Watt did it, and if he continues to play it the way he did on Thursday night against the Steelers, I would not be surprised to see if Garrett goes back-to-back. But if he does not sustain that level of success, I would love to see Surtain win it. Now, unfortunately, if you're going to be a corner and you win it, you got to have a lot of interceptions. And as of this moment, Patrick Surtain does not have enough INTs to get a lot of national attention because only true ball knowers know he's just an absolute island. No one throws his way, so he rarely gets the opportunity to intercept a pass because no quarterback wants to target his half of the field. But if this award was decided by offensive players and who they hate going up against the most this year, I think it would be 2 in orange. So if you want Pat Surtain to win Defensive Player of the Year or you feel like he should be in the mix for it, type 2 down below in the comment section. Let's let the number 1 cornerback in the National Football League know that Broncos country is pulling for him. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy your Thanksgiving week, and I'll see you guys later.